Well. Number 7, Notre Dame gets out of Kyle Field with a 23-13 win at number 20, Texas A&M. What went right? What went wrong? JR and I break it down on the other side of this break.
By Samaja, inside the 20, inside the 10, he's going in! Notre Dame has scored!
Go! You will be that driving force to motivate those coaches and those players to beat Southern Cal.
Notre Dame is relevant again.
The 20, the 10, 5-5 rocket touchdown!
Notre Dame is number 1.
It's a game of who's going to flinch first. We know that it won't be Notre Dame.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Landen and JR, joined by John Richards. This is half of the Golden Domers report. Dylan and Logan are unavailable this morning, but we're here, and that's all that matters. Arguably the two best, two greatest looking, at least, on the GDR. So it was a gutsy 23-13 win on the road in one of college football's most hostile environments. The place was rocking. It was the fourth largest crowd in Kyle Field history, at over 107,000 people packed into that stadium. And boy, oh boy, let me tell you, it was rocking from the start. I mean, you watch on TV, you watch Marcus Freeman hyping up the crowd before he comes out of the game. You couldn't hear Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit most of the game because the crowd was just so deafening and loud. It was amazing. JR, it was a huge win for Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman in week 1. Arguably the biggest road win for Notre Dame since Oklahoma in 2012.
What an atmosphere. Like I said, I didn't think we were going to luck into winning that game. We proved everything that we needed to prove. It wasn't the cleanest. It wasn't the prettiest, but it sure was gritty. You leaned on your strengths. Mm-hmm. You didn't make as many mistakes as the other team. You still made your fair share, which you got to clean up. You still got a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. But we're 1-0 and we're really well positioned now moving forward, Landon.
Absolutely we are. You know, just looking at the schedule, and I love what you say, JR. The schedule, we don't know what the schedule is until we actually play that team. I mean, for all we know, Georgia Tech could be undefeated when we play Georgia Tech. I mean, hell, Navy could be undefeated when we play Navy. I don't know who they played this week. They might be 0-1 already. But still, you don't know what the schedule is until you play that team. However, right now, the schedule looks to be a little bit in Notre Dame's favor. And around the Twitter world, it says Notre Dame just punched their ticket to a college football playoff. I don't know. It's week 1, good win. However, there's a long season to go, JR.
It's how the schedule is constructed. That's the main thing. Navy did win yesterday. I believe they beat Bucknell. Okay. So a lot of football. Everybody pump the brakes. Let's focus on getting better each and every week. We've got 2 good opportunities now to maybe test some depth, maybe build some development, work on the things that maybe we don't do so good, lean on the things that we do very well, continue to build cohesiveness on the offensive line. We saw a lot of new faces, especially in the defensive secondary. I saw some new people that really stood out. So I'm really excited moving forward.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Can't wait.
Yeah. JR, Lou Holtz said years and years ago, before I was even alive, back in your day, week 2 is where you find out who your team is, or something along those lines is week 2. And we'll get into this on Tuesday, but week 2 is a great opportunity to test some things. Obviously, you want to win the game. You got to start off good against a Northern Illinois team who has nothing to lose. They're coming into Notre Dame. However, week 2 should be the week where we figure out some of the offensive problems. You know, maybe the offensive line gets a little bit going against a weaker defensive line. So I know you're a big Lou Holtz guy. Obviously, we all are. But week 2 is the biggest week for this team. How do we respond to a gritty, tough road win against Northern Illinois? What do we need to clean up is mainly my question.
Well, you know, if you look at kind of some of the things that took place yesterday, 2 for 12 on 3rd down, 11 penalties. I don't know how many of those were pre-snap.
Right.
We did 0 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Very critical there, especially on the road in a hostile environment. Some of those penalties can be accounted for. A&M, they had some critical penalties as well.
They did.
But, coaches do believe that, you make your biggest leap from week 1 to week 2. I've got some data from some friends. We were actually talking about this subject that doesn't necessarily translate on the sports book, so to speak. But from week 1 to week 2, because you don't really know, and we talked about this last week, you think you might know who your team is, but you really don't. We didn't know who that offensive line was, and it looked like it was going really bad early on. And credit to them, they stuck with it. I'm proud that they did. Another concerning stat was that our leading rusher was our quarterback. I don't think we want to continue down that path. Very effective when needed. But third down, penalties, and now we have to watch. Luckily, it's Northern Illinois, who I think did win as well. They're 1-0, but very physical game. Long flight, very, very hot environment. I don't know, is it the first week of school? Our kids, it's syllabus week. Syllabus week means something in South Bend. It might not down at the library on the porch down at Bloomington where I went, but that's what we called the library, the porch. But week to week, we're going to see how this team develops and improves from here to next week. And that's where I think we lean on our coordinators, veteran coordinators. I think people were frustrated with Denbrock last night. It was a little iffy there at the beginning of the third quarter with Freeman rolling the dice and going for it. But I think it was a mentality thing. It wasn't necessarily a strategic thing, and it worked out in the long run. He leaned on his defense. Of course, they tried to hose us. I mean, that was a first down in every measure and every replay, every review that you could look at. But we're 1-0, and we need to get to 2-0.
Yes, we do. And so with that being said, Riley Leonard went 18 for 30 with 158 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, which is a concern. I did not like his accuracy at all last night. He was a little bit inaccurate. However, like you just said, JR, he clutched up when he needed to in the big moments. And after the game, he was hugging our quarterback coach, and he said, "Hey, we stepped up when it matters, and that's what's important." He also had 63 rushing yards in that ball game, and ultimately his legs are what won us the game. If you think about all the third down situations and second and long situations that he was able to scramble out and find an open receiver and or take off running. Love and Price split the 2 touchdowns. Love with a fantastic touchdown to give Notre Dame the lead late in the fourth quarter. Obviously, Mitch Jeter with a late field goal would ultimately seal the victory for Notre Dame. But still, Love and Price didn't really do anything eye-appealing. If you look at the stat sheet, not many yards rushing for those two. And I think that all falls in the offensive line, which we all had concerns about moving into this ball game. However, the offensive line did step up when it needed to towards the end of the game. And credit to them. Like you said, they stuck with it. They got gritty. They got tough up front. And ultimately got out of there with a 23-13 victory, JR. Just the offensive line doesn't get enough credit. They played poorly the first 3.5 quarters, but that final drive where we scored the game-winning touchdown, they played fantastic.
Yeah, I think we were also the better conditioned team, too. Yes. Going down the road, down that game, they had some injuries. They had some guys that were running, hobbling off the field. We were better conditioned. I was kind of surprised that we didn't see maybe a 6th lineman play. We didn't see Mitchell Evans a lot. Cross seemed to be, I don't want to say held back, but he was strategically reserved, and it helped. He showed when we needed it. So a lot of positive things, but we can't focus on what we just did. Let's enjoy it. But tomorrow we gotta work on getting better.
Absolutely. And folks, just a little preview. On Tuesday will be our Northern Illinois preview. Our schedule here at the Golden Domers Report will be Sunday recap, Tuesday preview the next opponent. We hope that is the entire, because I like consistency. Who doesn't? So anyway, moving along here. Jordan Faison came through huge in that ball game at tough moments. Bo Collins came through as well. He's a great addition from the Clemson Tigers. Greathouse Thomas and Flanagan had big moments as well. Some of their catches that they made, if they don't make those catches, JR, I think we're talking about a little bit of a worse outcome for the Irish. And that final catch on the on the final drive of the ball game, it was a huge catch down the sideline. He was able to get his feet in bounds and hold on to the ball, which is so important to set Notre Dame up with ultimately the game-winning touchdown that Love was able to run in. But just, oh my gosh, a great catch. He was getting interfered with as well.
And the announcers were hoping that he bobbled it. I was not pleased with some of the comments and the way that crew handled some points of that game, but to be expected. That's fine. It's okay. That's how we like it.
Right. They hate us because they're not us. And I think that's why they hate us, because they want to dabble in some of our money. They want Notre Dame to join a conference so badly so they can get a bite out of that money that we get to keep. And then they want NBC's money, they want Notre Dame's bowl money and stuff like that. But that's neither here nor.
And if you look at the week, now we've got a couple of games. It wasn't the prettiest game to watch on TV, but it was certainly one of the most meaningful of the weekend as compared to some of these other games that were complete blowouts and, playing, Sister Mary, Mother of the Poor and the School of the Blind. I mean, come on, some of these schools really need to step it up. Now, it's important for some of these feeder schools and these younger schools and in-state schools to get some economic opportunities from these big schools, but come on, let's go.
Right. Now, my grandpa, we'll get into this during the college football recap here in a quick, short 5 minutes. My grandpa did say, however, if you want to be in the college football playoff, you should not be able to schedule any team below major Division I college football. And that's honestly might be a little true. Our defense, we haven't touched on the defense. Wow. They held A&M to 100 passing yards and 0 passing touchdowns and forced 2 interceptions. I was saying it all game, put pressure on Weigman. If he gets under pressure, he cannot throw outside of the numbers. And when he had to, it showed that he is not an accurate quarterback, and we made him pay big time. We also surrendered 146 rush yards with a touchdown. Ultimately, that touchdown came through the gift of 1 of 11 penalties for the Irish. 11 penalties for 99 yards, JR. That just cannot happen. We're lucky. We're very fortunate to walk out with the win after the way we were so undisciplined on the defensive side of the ball in terms of penalties, undisciplined, and offense, false starts. You get 11 penalties on the road in a 107,000 plus atmosphere. You think you're getting blown out the water, but we didn't. But we're lucky. However, that cannot continue moving forward.
No, not at all. No coach will be happy with that kind of pre-snap procedural communication issues. The game was managed fairly well, though, as a whole. I was pleased with, the mainstream of communication and personnel groupings and things like that. But yeah, statistically, there were some indicators that you walk out of there and you're like, man, did we really win that game? But the other thing is, if Wegman is the best quarterback that we're supposed to face the rest of the year, like some of these, like we spoke about earlier, the BB, Blue and Gold said, I like our chances because we can play a lot of man, we can send a lot of pressure, and we're still okay provided that we're healthy and our depth continues to grow.
Absolutely. Notre Dame was 2 for 12 on 3rd down. The offense was not pretty by any means, but they stepped up when it mattered, and especially the offensive line, as we mentioned. The offensive line still needs a lot of work. You had guys unblocked that are just coming right in the gap and hammering Love or Price or Ford, whoever was in the backfield, right when they give the ball off, bam, loss on
Yeah.
the play or a very short game. And then the penalties. The penalties on the offensive line had a couple false starts and illegal procedures. That just it's got to improve. It's got to improve if we want to run the table, JR.
I think it will improve, and there's a direct correlation there between the O line and Riley Leonard's performance, specifically in the passing game. I think a lot of that'll get ironed out again. First time for a lot of new moving pieces. Should settle in over these next couple of weeks. I don't want to say they're get right games, because Miami of Ohio, they're not going to be a pushover. Northern Illinois, they're from the same conference as them. They put up, I think, 50 some points the other day. So stay focused, stay the course, keep getting better. Don't assume anything. Eye on the prize. Eye on the prize.
Yeah, challenge everything is what Marcus Freeman says. Challenge everything.
Right.
My offensive player of the game is Riley Leonard. I know it's cliche to have the quarterback, but I'm really impressed with his legs. He stepped up when we needed it most, and he put his team on his back, led them. He never got rattled either. It never seemed that he was, frantic or angry. He stayed poised. And my defensive player of the ball game is Aiden Schuler. Man, did he come to play last night in College Station. He had a chip on his shoulder. He was all over the field. It was great to see. And Riley Leonard, only thing I have written down about him, he's got to be more accurate. There's some throws there that obviously were on the receivers or tight ends for not running their routes right. However, some of the throws that he did make were a little inaccurate, and I would love to see him be a lot more accurate moving forward. And for the defensive side of things, JR, we missed a lot of tackles in the backfield, a lot of tackles in open field. We got to clean that up as well because we could have put A&M in some tough positions if we made some of those tackles, and unfortunately, we did not.
No, we didn't, but survive in advance. Week 1, time to go to hit the film study. Lean on our coordinators. We got the captain of the ship sailing us down the river. Stay the course. We'll be all right. We'll be all right. Let's credit A&M too. There's another team on the other side of the field. That Moss kid, he was a shifty guy. Wegman, he was gamey. Their defense, they were stacking the box. They were testing us. And give us credit. We stayed patient. We didn't overreact. Maybe a little bit there in the third quarter. But again, I like the mentality. I like the decision. I think Al Golden and Coach Freeman, they'll take care of the blocking, the tackling, the fundamentals throughout the week. I think will look a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Right. Before we move on here to the week 1 of college football outside of Notre Dame, I do want to say some of the people, going into this game, it was all little Notre Dame can't handle the atmosphere. Notre Dame, this is what a real conference looks like. Maybe you should join one crowd, and Notre Dame's overrated. Texas A&M is going to womp on them. Now I'm going through Twitter, and all those people who were saying that Notre Dame is overrated and they can't handle an atmosphere like that, rightfully so though, have now turned and said, "Oh, Texas A&M's overrated. Not a big deal for Notre Dame to win this game." Every person on every major college game day, big noon kickoff, took Texas A&M to beat Notre Dame at home. And now they're flip-flopping and saying, "Oh, Texas A&M's overrated, da-da-da-da-da." You can't have it both ways. I'm sorry. Either you pick them and said Notre Dame's going to lose, or you pick Notre Dame to win this ball game. However, JR, I'm not seeing much credit here to Notre Dame. We went on the road. I'm not saying this is a national championship type of win, but we went on the road. We won a game in an SEC environment, the 4th largest crowd in Kyle Field history, and we won the game. They can't have it both ways. Either Texas A&M is good and we beat them, or Notre Dame beat a good team on the road. You cannot have it both ways, JR.
No, well, thankfully we at GDR, we speak the truth. We know how the mainstream media is nowadays. Nothing but the truth here. Stick with us. We'll get you through the year. We'll be all right. Don't listen to that. Stay on the inside. Keep it in house. Keep it in the locker room.
Locker room talk. All right, moving on here to week 1 of college football. Just some notes that we have that I would like to discuss shortly, or we can go into detail. whatever we feel. We'll start on Thursday's game. Number 24, NC State needed a 21-0 fourth quarter to beat Western Carolina 38-21. You do the math on that. They trailed entering the third quarter 21-17. They did not look good at all. They closed it out, however, they won the game, but I don't see them staying in the top 25. NC State, not really a good performance to open up the year, JR.
No, but again, they won, they survived. They've got a veteran coach. But the ACC did not have a stellar weekend.
Vandy beat Virginia Tech.
ACC did not have a good weekend. Clemson is back to maybe Clemsoning.
Yeah. We'll talk about that here soon. Colorado holds off North Dakota State in a game that North Dakota State should have won. Some calls now and then. I'm not blaming it on the officials. I will never blame a game on the officials. However, they did play a part in it. But North Dakota State missed a lot of opportunities given to them. So I'm not going to hold this one against the officials. Hey, prime time, 1-0. Big, tough test coming up. I don't know if it's Colorado State next or Nebraska next, but I know that's their next two games. I don't know which is first, though.
I think Nebraska is next. And you're
Okay.
probably taking a little bit of heat for how he managed the end of that game there.
As he should.
Yeah,
He's a college football coach at the major level. He's in one of the major conferences.
you need to explain your decision making and your thought process.
Right.
Your thought process sometimes. So
absolutely. And I don't like how he gets so defensive when the media calls him out on it or asks him a tough question. I mean, what do you want? What do you want us to ask, Coach? I mean, Coach, what's your favorite pregame meal? Is that what you want every game? I mean, the way he takes criticism is bad. He's like a child. He gets all defensive and then name calls them. Oh, y'all are trash and stuff like that. But nonetheless, North Carolina survives Minnesota thanks to a last-second missed field goal by the Golden Gophers. However, the Tar Heels do lose their quarterback in the process of a tough victory. The boat might be row your boat there for Minnesota. The boat might be on fire right now for old PJ Fleck down there in Minneapolis, JR.
Yeah, tough year in the Big Ten, man. The Big Ten's pretty low.
Yeah. So North Carolina does lose their quarterback. Yeah, Mac Brown gets a big win on the road, loses his quarterback. We'll see how North Carolina fares without their quarterback. Number 1, Georgia rolls. Number 14, Clemson. It's the new year, but the same old stuff for Dabo Swinney since 2021. JR, in today's era of college football, you have to go to the transfer portal. I'm sorry, you have to. He doesn't, and that's going to be, it has been his downfall, and I think this is his last year at Clemson.
Yeah, he needs to bring somebody else's guts into that program because they need some help. And, Georgia made a little bit of a different result, of course, but the way that game also played out, it was 6-6 at half?
Yeah.
So they didn't overreact. They stuck with it. Long game, give them credit. They're on the revenge tour this year.
Yeah, they are.
Road number.
Yeah, they are on the revenge tour. Number 2, Ohio State, starts sloppy but rolls Akron 52-6. I was watching Miami and Florida, and they kept showing a little bit of highlights during that game. It was about 3-0 early in favor of Akron, and then Ohio State tied it up and then scored touchdowns. It was 10-3. Wasn't a good start for old Zero State, but they got the job done when it matters against the MAC's worst team. So congrats to Zero State and Ryan Day.
Yeah, they were happy to be in the horseshoe, having a good time on Saturday afternoon.
Number 3, Oregon, 24-14 over Idaho in Autzen Stadium. Not a good performance from the number 3 team in the country. Definitely going to drop in the rankings here, JR, but that was not a good performance. Number 8, Penn State hammers West Virginia in Morgantown 34-12. How about Tommy Allen's defense coming to play for Tickle Me Sandusky?
Yeah, give them credit. You say you don't hear a lot about Notre Dame. I hear a lot about Penn State on the radio and last night. Everybody fool's gold kind of a little bit on West Virginia. The weather was, I don't know what was going on down there. That 2-hour rain delay, 2-hour halftime. That certainly did not help. Penn State looks to be a different part. They've got some new people in there helping out on both sides of the ball. Drew Aller is a prototype quarterback from around my parts. People are excited to see him play. But again, a long road for them too. They've got to go. They got to manage too. But they certainly looked competent in week 1.
Absolutely. They play in the second best conference in college football, so they're going to have to run that gauntlet to make a run at a title. I said this last year, however, Tom Allen, he is great as a coordinator. As a head coach, he cannot lead a team. He cannot make head coaching decisions. As a defensive coordinator, I have loved Tom Allen's defensive schemes always. Fantastic defensively.
No doubt about it. LEO, love each other. He is a good defensive coordinator. There's no doubt about that.
Now, when it comes to head coaching, he should never see the head coaching spot in the game again, unless it's at the lower level.
It's not his fault he took a job that was offered to him. So that's another discussion for another guy.
Number 9, Michigan beats Fresno State in Ann Arbor 30-10. JR, I was looking during a commercial break during the Notre Dame football game. It was 16-10 in the fourth quarter, Michigan. It took a pick 6 for them to beat Fresno State by 20. And I'm not here to harp on Michigan at all, but I do want to say Fresno State has had a good history in week 1 games against Power 5 opponents. That wasn't a pushover game either. And credit to Michigan. Their schedule this year outside of Arkansas State, it's a solid, tough schedule for the Wolverines.
A lot of tradition, a lot of history, proud program. A good measuring stick going into Texas next.
Absolutely, yes.
Texas, how about that? Texas, they warmed up with Colorado State.
Which is not a pushover usually. They're pretty solid Mountain West team.
Yeah, not bad. That's going to be a big matchup next week. That's going to determine a lot of things. And Archie got a little play yesterday too. Good job, Archie.
Yeah, he did. And you got to wonder, coaches have admitted to doing this before. You got to wonder if Coach Moore was holding back his playbook against Fresno State just to see, what they can do, but hold it from Texas because they got a big one. College game day is rolling in. It is, is that a noon kickoff? It might be a big noon.
I'm not sure what it is, but definitely get in, get out. We talk about it all the time. Stay healthy, stay vanilla. Don't give your opponent anything that they can, look into. But next week, you got to empty the bag.
Right, you got to get, not to get graphic, but you got to put them out on the table, if you know what I mean. You got to put them out on the table against the number 4 team in the country coming into your house. I wouldn't look too much into this Fresno State game for Michigan at home. It was a lot closer than that, however. Number 19, Miami dominates Florida in the swamp. That was a disaster of a game for the Florida Gators. They look like Vanderbilt, to be honest with you. The old Vanderbilt of old, they look terrible. Words can't even describe how bad they looked, JR.
Yeah, Miami, I'm not sure if this is one of these games. Is Miami better or is Florida so infected and so trending downward that, maybe Miami is still a little bit fugazi, but they got a nice quarterback.
Yes, they do.
So sure about their coach, hostile environment. Credit to Miami for an impressive week 1 win. Billy Napier, he's going to be rowing his boat too.
Yeah, he will definitely at the end of the year, I think. A lot of people have the bets on Coach Napier heading out of Florida. So with that being said, catch number 23 USC and number 13 LSU tonight, Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. on ABC. We're probably, by the time this gets uploaded, it will be probably halftime or by the end of the game. That is Sunday night. There's JR/Brian Kelly doing the whole L thing that they did, when I'm, that recruiting video. And then tomorrow night, Monday night at 7:30 on ESPN, Boston College takes on number 10 Free Shoe U, Florida State University. Big one for the Seminoles. They're playing their second game. How have they made improvements? At home opener, disappointing loss after the debacle in Dublin, JR.
Same thing. Is Georgia Tech better or is Florida State down? We're going to find out. This is week 2 for them. So interesting. Good couple games.
Absolutely. JR, any final thoughts to close out a big week 1 for the Irish?
No, I'm happy with how the game turned out.
JR's happy.
Yeah, I really, if I rewind what took place on our last episode, I think I predicted if everything went the way that it would go, 28-17, but I modified it, went 24-20. I thought the kicking game would be important, and it certainly was.
It was, yes, it was.
It was 23-13 in there, 2013, 13-6-ish. So I think we were all kind of in the same boat.
Mm-hmm. Row your boat.
You picked a loser, though. You picked a loser. I don't want to get ahead of myself, and maybe you want to let all our listeners know where we stand. But giddy up, boys and girls. Giddy up, boys and girls.
I did pick Notre Dame to lose this game on the show. Thankfully, I was wrong. I don't mind being wrong in this situation. But as we stand right now, we have 2 more games to pick. However, we all have the same picks in those games. JR is 22-0 in the picks this week. Logan is 21-1 along with Dylan, and myself is 20-2. I can tell you my losses right now off the top of my head and looking at my stat sheet here with 20-2, West Virginia, Notre Dame, which I will gladly take those losses any day of the week for the picks. However, JR is 22-0, has a chance to be the first one in Golden Domers Report history to go undefeated on the picks. He already set history last year, going just 1 loss. 1 wrong pick last year was history. Going for history again. Find out on Tuesday if JR hits history on the Golden Domers Report as we preview Northern Illinois for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. For John Richards, I'm Landen Trailer, and we will see you on Tuesday. Go Irish!